Hey everyone, it's Rye, bringing you that new style of video that I was talking about, where I'm going to be reviewing games I've recently played and trying to talk about some of the decisions I make and some key moments and key inflection points. And wanted to spend some time on the latest one I just posted, uh, where I was playing Austria. Austria, if anyone knows me and my Civ endeavors, they know I really like Austria as a Civ. Easily one of my favorite Civs. And they're allowed to do a lot of different things. So I'm pretty sure I've covered this before, but their ability to marry city states is a game breaking way to acquire pop. The Hussar is a good utility unit. It's not like a great cav, but it's fine. Um, the flanking bonus is great. The movement and sight are definitely noticeable, especially when we talk about upgrading to land ships. And then the coffee house is probably one of the better buildings in the whole game at only 100 hammers, so really big discount. And then lastly, their hill bias, which is probably one of the best bias in the whole game. So typically, I like to play this in one of two ways. First is wide, where we don't really use the diplomatic marriage that much, but the coffee house kind of carries. The hill bias allows us to always have a pretty strong, consistent early game. Or my preferred way is actually tall, and I like to go 3 city wonder spam and then buy a bunch of city states close by to me, scale late game into that. I can either flex optionality of like ending with the Petro win con, ending with the science win con, or ending with the domination win con. In this game, we take the domination route, but you'll kind of see a lot of the what I'm thinking right away, and I'll try to make it pretty clear. If you have any questions, feel free to leave them in the comments. I'll try to be really responsive in terms of explaining my decision and my thought processes. So if you have any questions, feel free to leave them below, but let's just jump right in. All right, so as mentioned, we're Austria, so what we're going to be looking for, at least when I play, is always a tall start. Right here, I notice this is like obviously turn 0, so I don't really see that much, but I'm noticing that there's a Petra start, which is good for tradition, but really low food, not a single river in sight. And then this doesn't make me feel any better, right? Because I see coast around here. So I'm assuming that I'm on the very bottom of the map right now, and I got pretty low coast. There's a part of me that it's almost like, do I move down left? There's a chance I'm on horse if I move down left and I pick up the obsidian. If I am really far left, I still retain the ability to build Petra, but I get the extra Lux in my cap, and I'm likely not settling that. I opt to settle in place, valuing the freshwater guarantee. And fortunately, I didn't move, but that's something I was thinking of at the time. Right now, though, this is looking like pretty bad tradition or probably something wide. So inherently, I'm thinking, okay, I could play something wide here.
Call that the ivory.
All right. So next point I want to talk about is my settle pattern. I think a lot of people would have struggled settling here, though some of it was pretty obvious. All right, so important about this game, we find out we're in the very top right of the map. At this point, I already have a settler out, and I know, and originally I was going to settle on this iron. I just want to make sure you can see my mouse. Yeah, you can. Okay, cool. I was originally going to settle on that iron. Well, on this iron is good, but I actually lose. I don't gain any tile settling on here. I only gain the tempo of being on iron, but I actually lose this sheep. And I know that my dream scenario is building Petra in this expand, which is why I settle it first. Typically, you want to settle your Petra city first if you're going to be contesting it in an expand. That way it's caught up on all buildings and it's, functioning, rather than you'd settle it last and it's, you're kind of cramming it all. I have a really good settle down here off fresh water, but on the coast. Really, really love the amount of sheep and I'm seeing here. There's We end up seeing a good amount of horses eventually as well. There's a cattle here, another cattle here. So instantly I'm thinking, okay, definitely want Petra. In an ideal world, I get great library. But not super important. But in a perfect world, I get my build path is Stonehenge. Just for the record, also, this was a one worker game because I wanted to be fast. I really wanted to get this city down. Right, it's turn 18. I'm 4 pop. I have one worker. I stole one already. It's turn 18. The settle's about to come down, so that's pretty good, especially without any chops. And then I'm almost done my second settler, which is going to be settling Mesa. You might be like, why didn't you settle Mesa first? Again, we want to make sure this Petra city is going more than the Mesa city. The Mesa city is going to be able to catch up very quickly. And then lastly, I'm going to need something over here. I see America's down here, and in my head, I don't really know anything about Jeb. But in my head, America likes to go wide, so I'm anticipating that he's going to probably want to come up. I set borders with him pretty early on, and I say I want to settle this obsidian. He's understanding. You know, realistically, I'm probably going to settle on this hill. Later, I find out that there's a horse right here, which is perfect, and I end up settling on this horse instead. That gives me full access to these river tiles for growth purposes, but it also just lets the city speed up as I'm going to be settling at third. There's a first ring chop on this tile. This also gets this deer chop, but I end up opting not to chop it because it needs the food. So that is that thought process. General strategy here. I'm still going to be going in early philosophy. It's likely that my cities, especially the Mesa and on the on-horse city, are going to be caught up pretty early because I have no water mills to make, which means I'm going to be able to get early libraries going. That's going to allow for a very early national college. Think somewhere in the early 50s, even after going for Petra. So let's check in to see how we're doing about here. Yeah, so it's turn 48. I'm throwing up a great lighthouse because fuck it. I already built my library in Linz. Vienna is building. So just so you all know, my build order in Vienna was Stonehenge into Stoneworks to Mausoleum into Hanging. And so I still need to build a library. And then I teched, those techs in trapping and then into Petra. The only reason I didn't contest Great Library is because Catharos, who's playing Philippines, who is the second best player in this lobby easily, was building Great Library. So I knew I couldn't really contest it from him. I don't see either coastal player queuing Great Lighthouse, and I like being able to just get more merchant point wonders. Lighthouse isn't like super important, but it's just a good deny. And if it hasn't gone yet on turn 48, it's probably not going. So felt pretty safe. There's nothing really else for me to build in Graz anyway. So, worst case scenario, it's just some gold when it explodes. Salzburg is going to be getting, it looks like a turn 54. It might come down one with this chop. So maybe 53 expand Petra. It's not like terribly fast, but it's not slow. I'd say a fast cap Petra would be like 45. So a fast expand Petra, call it like 48, 49. So 53, not too bad. Both of these cities went early cargoes. Those were the first two things I built. And the thought process here is if I do get Petra in Salzburg, I'll be able to send the caravan to Vienna. One of the things I wanted to think about also is if there was a Petra cap that wasn't mine, right? If someone else had a Petra cap, I haven't met main method, but his points are so low that, and at the time I'm also top hammer. So I felt pretty good about contesting it in my expand because one, no one I met was actually in currency yet, and two, no one else had a Petra cap. If there was another Petra cap and someone else was trying to race me, I wouldn't have queued this hanging. I would have just force rushed Petra in my capital just to make sure I got it. But it turns out that I got it in Salzburg and it was great. So we are on pace currently to finish trad in 5 turns. So that's 53. That's not slow. It's definitely not fast, at least when you compare it to Oracle timings, who can finish it around turn 45. But remember, we're trading a fast tradition finish for an insane wonder run. So far, we've got Stonehenge Mazo. We're going to get Hanging here, and we're going to get Petra. So that's 4 wonders on turn 50. And maybe Great Lighthouse as well. It ends up exploding. I end up queuing a bunch of wonders. I got same turned on way too many wonders this game, and I still ended up with 20 plus wonders. So all of that to say, I think it's very easy for you to still, have good success with your game, even if you're, maybe not seeing the land for what it is. Now, one thing I wanted to highlight in this game specifically, and I'm going to take the time to mention it now, is because a lot of people in this spot would have thought, okay, I need to play piety, or, oh, I need to force honor here, or something like that, because they don't see it as tradition land. Now, in my opinion, there's 2 types of tradition land. There's one, like, the first type is like you just have really, really good land. You have, it's really good scaling, high quality, whatever. Okay. Obviously, that's good tradition land because your game's going to be good. Your cap's really strong. The other type is high tempo land where you can go on wonder runs. I knew I had Expand Petra potential. I knew I had Machu potential in Vienna. I knew I had Marble, and I knew I had a lot of hammers. That's the making for a really strong wonder run. I'm not going to be able to contest things like Oracle because my tech's going to be slow because my pop is going to be low. But I will still be able to contest, unless I get library, of course. But I will still be able to bum rush. If let's say I bum rushed Oracle, I'd still probably be able to get it. Wouldn't be that fast, but I'd still am able to contest Petra here. I'm still able to, tech really good things. And what you'll notice is I'm 4 turns away from finishing Philosophy, which means once this, actually it might come down 1 to 3. Yeah, it does. So I'm actually going to be getting it on 51. Perfectly timed with my library, which means I can instantly start NC on turn 51. And this is probably going to be a 5-turn NC, so finish it on 56. That's pretty good timing. Not incredibly good timing, but pretty good considering my cap's already built 3 wonders. After NC, we're going to have a really nice curve right into Chichen. And let's talk about that. Additionally, I end up getting an early Golden Age, which most people wouldn't like. You can't really see, but here I'm 6 turns away from finishing a Golden Age, and actually it's probably just better if I just go skip ahead a bit. So here, I'm in GA. I'm top hammers against a Liberty player, right? So that shouldn't happen, but regardless, my pop isn't very good. It's scaling up as it is, but I will say one thing that's pretty underrated is in these types of caps, building Hanging Gardens actually goes a really long way. Additionally, Hanging Gardens allows for really early engineers, and you can do some pretty interesting things with them. So things to consider. Anyway, so it's turn 59. Horseshoe Crab entered Medieval on 58, and I know he's the other tradition player. There's another one, but he's having a pretty bad game, and he's like a new player, so I'm just going to exclude him. Horseshoe Crab plays in tournament lobbies. I recognize the name. I don't really know how strong he is. But anyway, he enters turn 58. He's 5 city tradition, so he's a little slow, which tells me he's not in Philosophy yet. But I know he's going to be queuing Chichen. This capital does not have good hammers. You can just kind of tell. It's Argentina, but I don't see the pastures. I see the single horse tile. Maybe he has some third ring. I don't know, but he's got dies, and he's sitting on 2 deer tiles and a horse tile and an iron tile. That's it. He's 11 pop. He doesn't have the hammers. If we compare that to me, so anyway, and his Coco is not 2 gold. It's only 1, which means he's not in Golden Age, etc. If we compare that to me, I'm also 11 pop, but my entire city is hammers. The whole thing is hammers. So instantly, I'm thinking, okay, I could potentially either same turn him or even beat him. If he's got a 6 turn, I can guarantee beat him. But most tradition caps, you'd be hard pressed to find a tradition cap that can't 5-turn Chichen. So going in, you always have to expect the 5-turn. That means if I 4-turn it, we're going to same turn. And Chichen's usually worth a same turn gamble, in my opinion. But there's actually a chance here that I'm able to 3-turn. I'm 28 off. I'm in golden age, and I'm way over on the amount of food I'm working, and I have a chop on that deer tile to the left that I mentioned before. So that saving that chop actually got me Chichen here because I was about to drop out of GA, and I actually got a 3-turn Chichen in my capital here, which doesn't have Petra, which is insane. That's so rare, but it's because I'm playing trad on this high hammer of a cap, right? Got Hanging Gardens. It's getting a caravan here, right? So, yeah. And then you can kind of see, maybe I could go back. Yeah, like look how good these Salzburg tiles are. Like this is just chef's kiss. Salzburg is is better than every single capital on the map, including my own. So love to see that. Really excited for that. And we end up getting Chichen here in a 3-turn. Mostly on the back of that early golden age, like I was talking about before. So at this point, I actually decide, I have so many hammers. Linz is building a fucking amphitheater. And after having already built its market, right? Salzburg is 3-turning Parthenon. Graz is building a writer's guild because it has nothing else to build. There's no point for me to go workshops right now. There's literally no point. I should just be going unis. And this is like a very, this is like not a very controversial opinion, but unis first is not something you should ever default to. Should be a calculated decision that you make when in the game, and you're like, okay, I have the pop to work the slots, and I have the hammers to build them very quickly. Additionally, unis first helps me supplement what I know will be a slow science game. And I know it's going to be slow because I don't have the growth to support really high pop. So that's how I came up with the unis first decision. It was not just like, oh, I'm having a good game, I'm going to go unis first. That's not what happened here. It was much more thought out. And I see people make this mistake all the time. You need to have an actual reason to go unis first. Additionally, I see my neighbor building, he built Great Wall. He's loading my thing with forts. He's clearly scared of me just from a reputational standpoint. I know I'm safe. His gold per turn was fine, but no one was going guilds. I knew he was going workshops first. So that was the thought process. Additionally, he went Goddess of Love, which is typically a scaling path. So it's unlikely that he would try to crossbow me. Additionally, crossbowing a tradition player is pretty sus unless you are a tradition player yourself, because they're going to have isolated hammers, and consolidated hammers in your capital make crossbows much harder to push into compared to something like calves, where it's easier to flood tiles. Additionally, at this point, I also make the decision not to go Borobudur, which is only because the way my faith worked, and I didn't build any shrines, which was probably a mistake because I got a late religion here. So 8 turns, I'm not going Boro. I end up queuing Aya in Salzburg right after this Parthenon, and inevitably I get same turned on it, which kind of sucked. But skip ahead just to show that. Yeah, I get same turned here. It gets blown up, and I'm building like a fucking temple in Linz, right? Like this kind of just goes to show what I was doing. Additionally, I mentioned this before, but love patronage on the Civ. It gives optionality in terms of, okay, I can scale with pop, or I can just support my war efforts with happiness, and that's exactly how I used patronage here. I get a pretty good religion, but I'm not really going to talk about that. I want to mostly focus on high level stuff rather than like super micro stuff. All right, so here is a really, really, really important turn. So when this turn rolls, first thing I'm doing on every single turn transition is I'm always looking on the right side of the screen. I'm always looking to see, okay, Catharos entered Renaissance era. Okay, where did he enter? First thing I do, every single time. Someone entered something. Okay, what does he do? I'm now checking. Okay, he didn't go through banking, didn't go through printing. That can leave one thing. Okay, that means, and this is when I decide that I'm going to engineer Alhambra, but that means that Catharos is likely not going to get leaning because the other players, Horseshoe Crab or Jeb or Main Method, are likely going to be going printing first compared to Catharos. So Catharos is going to be late to printing, and they're going to have their engineers to get leaning. I know already that I likely want to kill them. So it doesn't make sense for me to save an engineer. And I think at this point I decide, okay, you know, Jeb is not having that great of a game. I'm consistently above him in hammers. He's beating me in food, but that's expected. But if I'm above him in hammers, there's like a big problem going on. You'll also see like wonders queued up in all these cities. Like I was going on a pretty crazy wonder run here. Salzburg ends up surpassing my cap and pop, to no one's surprise. Linz is stagnating, again, to no one's surprise. But anyway, if I'm going to kill them, I want them to build leaning because I want to take it for free. And that's what ends up happening here. Alhambra, on the other hand, is very hard to slot in perfectly, especially because I still haven't built Machu because I had to build Boro after getting same turned on Aya, right? So Boro consumed a lot of my build queue. I went Uni into Boro, and then right here, I forget what I was building in cap. Oh yeah, like Caravanistry because I had nothing else to build. Right here, I decide, okay, I'm just going to slam this Alhambra. I'm going to use the overflow from Alhambra to build Machu. And then I'm going to go straight into really high GPT, really good promotions, right? Alhambra gives you the ability to get charge, gives you double ambush for your Cav War, which is all you really could ask for. But mostly this decision was made by Catharos not going for leaning. If Catharos went for leaning, or rather if Catharos hadn't entered, I'd be more hesitant to slam this engineer. Additionally, like I said before, having an early hanging, now Unis first definitely slows down your engineer timings, but going hanging first allows me to start the generation of engineer points a lot faster because one, I went Stonehenge into hanging, which gives me 2 points, and then it additionally gives me the garden, which is huge. So I'm 13 turns away from my next engineer, which is going to come on 89, which is really good timing. And then additionally, Salzburg also built, it built Petra. It's been working a slot as well. There's a good chance that I can get that there. So I could save the next engineer for Himeji, and then I could spawn another one in Salzburg, and I could potentially get something like Brandenburg. And that's end up exactly what's happening, and I'm timing these engineers. I'm thinking more ahead, long term, like, okay, like if I'm winning in the tech game right now because I went Unis first. Of course, it was risky. If Jeb decided to crossbow me, I would have been kind of caught in a rock and a hard place. But again, Linz is settled pretty defensively. This river does a really good job. All of these tiles over here are hills, so it's really hard to push this city with crossbows unless you get a lot of pre-roads. And I've had a scout on his borders pretty much the whole game, so I knew I'd know if something was coming. He'd know if something was coming from me. But yeah. So again, we're gonna skip ahead. I'm going to leave the link to this in the description, but you can, of course, just find it on my channel if that's easiest for you. I'm going to just skip ahead to the war part and when I make the decision to go in and stuff like that. All right, so it's turn 91. It was turn 90 when I hit Cav, and I have to hard tech, because my scientist isn't coming for 10 turns, I have to hard tech fertilizer, and then I'm going to get Cavs, or I'm going to get Artie on turn 95, sorry. So I end up fucking up the Artie timing here. It didn't really matter. I ended up getting a 96 just because I didn't finish. My Oxford on that turn for whatever reason. I think it like bugged out or something. But I do end up getting Terracotta, and that gives me enough unit mass to feel pretty confident that I can just like go in with Cavs and cannons. Typically, I've said this before, but I find that like kind of disrespectful to go Cav cannon. But if you look at the borders, he's got 4 units, including a scout. I don't think he's got anything over here. At this point, I decide, okay, if I send 3 Cavs down here, I could probably like deal with all this stuff. I could send 2 or 3 cannons to the left and just pop Philadelphia. By the time I kill Chicago and Philadelphia, I'll have Artie, upgrade Artie's in his land, and then just take his cap the next turn. That was the thought process. Additionally, I'm short on gold, even in a GA, even with 80 gold per turn, because I upgraded so many knights. The problem I find myself a lot of the times in these Tradition Wars is I overbuild a little early, and I admit to doing it this turn where I started my unit production like a little early, and I could have maybe built like, maybe a bit more infrastructure, like, a East India Company comes into mind or something like that. But didn't really do that. I was kind of like, I need to build my forges. I need to build my, my armories, whatever. Kind of regret doing that to an extent, but it obviously ended up working out. I think a more observant player, and if Jeb was having a better game, he probably would have had more units. And in that case, I just wait until Artie and then I blast him at Artie. So either way, it would have worked out just fine, but wanted to make that point. I'm not going to talk about religion because I'm pretty sure I talk about that in the middle of the game. I'm going to keep going here, and there's only one more thing I want to cover. I know I'm going over. I wanted these to be like 15, 20 minutes max, and I'm already at 25, so apologize in advance. So we ended up killing Washington on turn 98. Remember, we started this attack on turn 92. So it's been 6 turns. I've taken 3 cities, and we're moving into Boston, then we're going to be moving to San Francisco. At this point, I end up stealing architecture and acoustics, which makes me feel really confident that there's no reason I shouldn't keep going, right? What are my core cities actually going to be doing? Linz is definitely behind, right? Linz is a piece of shit city. That makes sense. All of my other cities are well into their build queues. They have nothing to do. In fact, I was so paranoid that Catharos was going to come in because Catharos obviously went, he went frigates. I was so convinced that he was going to try something on me that, okay, why does this look like shit? I end up building like arsenals in Salzburg and Graz, like castles, walls, arsenals. Like I move my like crossbows here, like for defensive purposes to give them more combat strength. Like they're settled on hills. Like I was so convinced he was going to try to come and like pillage me that like, and I had so much extra time, right? So like I'm killing this guy and I have so much extra time in Graz and Salzburg that I'm just like building that stuff. At this point, I'm like, dude, I can like, I'm going to get industrial in like 2 turns with my scientists. I'm already at schools. I'm just going to like blow through my build queues in my cap. My cap, the only thing that it really could be building right now that'd be productive is an opera house. Other than that, like I don't need any of this. I mean, I can kind of use military academy because I know I'm going to be going auto, etc. But the point still stands. I don't really need any of this. So my thought process is I have a lot of unit mass right now. This is like the inflection point where I'm like, I'm deciding right now, as soon as this guy's dead, I'm just going to keep going right into Horseshoe Crab. It might take a little while. He might be really well defended, but it doesn't matter. I have arties. I know he doesn't. And meanwhile, I'm building my factories. I'm building my schools. I don't have to produce any units. As soon as I'm done factories and schools, I just go straight into unit production until I get Total War. Once I get Total War, then I'll make a detour for military academies in my expands. But until then, I'm chilling, and I'm just going to keep going straight into more units. I need a lot more calves, so that's pretty much all I build. Build some more arties in my expands. Calves in my cap exclusively just because I have Alhambra. So, and again, we're going to fast forward a little bit, but I flipped these cities. I will say Austria is such a good civ for city flipping because those windmills are so cheap. They allow for really easy city flipping. But like moving to Juji, this guy had literally nothing. He gave up Juji, decided to defend both of these cities with this river. I general in. He doesn't have a general, right? I have multiple generals. He's got none. I also got Brandy. He didn't. Like it's just doomed for him. So I'm just going to be slowly pushing in. And then, the game ended when I got turn 120 land ships. Yeah, I got, where is it? Yeah, I had 120 land ships with Clausewitz in a turn. Like, this kind of thing, this is with 2 textiles, Oxfordian calves, 120 land ships. It's crazy, right? So knowing how to push your victory condition is probably one of the most important skills in Civ. This game is a really good job of showcasing how to do just that. That's all I really wanted to cover in this video. Let me know if you have any questions. Hopefully this was helpful. If you enjoyed this type of style of video, let me know. I'm happy to make more of these. This was actually pretty fun for me to make. And additionally, if you made it to the end, let's say, like, comment duck. I think I've used that before, but we'll do it again. So comment duck if you made it to the end. But anyway, thanks everyone for watching, and I will catch you in the next one.